You know, when you're at Cape Eleuthera, you never know who you're going to meet. You have no idea. And I didn't know it, but whenever I got here, I was going to be introduced to a man by the name of Neil Watson. Now, this guy's a legend in the world of diving. He's the president of the Bahamas Diving Association. He holds the record for swimming 66 miles underwater nonstop without ever surfacing. He's done the deepest dive ever in salt water with regular air, which is well over 300 feet. This guy has been there and done it, and it was an honor to meet him. It was an honor to dive with him.
Well, we just left the dock. As you can see, we're maybe a quarter of a mile offshore. The wall starts less than a mile offshore. So the running time normally is like 8 to 10 minutes. We're going to run south a little ways, do some wall dives down there. We have walls all the way along. This is an area called Hole in the Wall. You got caves and caverns that you can swim down as you come out right on the face of the wall. A couple of 1,000-foot drop off. We're going to go south. We're going to do some wall dives, come up and do the cage, and this afternoon we'll go out and play in the blue holes, which is really a treat.
Right there's the resort. Right here's the dive spot. The water is just an absolute radiant blue. And folks, as always, I am psyched. I'm pumped. I'm ready to get in and see what we're going to see. We're going down under Cape Eleuthera, Outer Islands of Bahamas.
So Neil and I started out diving a wall. It was gorgeous. Bunch of big sea fans and sponges and all kinds of life, snappers and groupers, and saw a few lionfish, and just fantastic. Well, next he goes, Rob, I want to take you and show you the cage. And this cage is where they previously raised cobia. So when we were diving there, it was unique just to see something that's that big and that unique built underwater to raise cobia in their natural environment. It was a cage in the middle of the ocean. How cool is that? When we're down on the bottom there, we saw some big black groupers and saw big amberjacks, and it's one of those really cool things to get to spend time in the water with a legend, with a guy like Neil Watson. And then later on that day, he goes, Rob, have you ever dove a blue hole? And I said, no, sir, I've never dove a blue hole. He goes, well, I'd like to take you. And so we go way back here, about 10 miles under the flat, and you're only in 6, 7 feet of water. And I'm thinking, what kind of blue hole can this be? You know, we're out here, it looks like a bonefish flat. Well, I grabbed my underwater video camera and threw on the tank, and he and I would dive over, and we're just swimming along, and next thing you know, you come onto just a big hole. It's like, check this out. There were Spanish mackerel swimming all on top, and got over it. There was no current, and I dove all the way to the bottom. We were at 90 feet. Then you could look up, and it was sort of looking at the sun. And then a couple of my buddies that were diving with us that didn't go all the way to the bottom, they were still up, and you could look up at them as my bubbles were going up and the sunlight was coming down with them silhouetted. And you're like, I'm in a blue hole, and I'm at the bottom. How cool is that? You know, my time spent with Neil Watson was a time that I'll never forget. He's done things that I'll never do. Most people in this world will never do. And to get to spend time in the water with him and dive with him and call him my friend, it's an honor.
One of the things about the Bahamas, I mean, there's a bit of a misconception. People will go to Nassau and dive and say, well, I dove the Bahamas, or they'll go to Freeport and dive and say, well, I've dove the Bahamas. I mean, the Bahamas is such a diversified destination. You could dive your diving lifetime and never run out of places to go and things to see and experience. And if you've been to the Bahamas or anywhere in the Caribbean and you haven't been to Cape Eleuthera, this is unique unto itself. It's not like any other island. It's not like any other dive experience. And it should be on your list if you're planning a dive vacation. We're going to go to the cage. It's going to be a premier dive site, not only in the Bahamas, anywhere in the world, because it's going to be the only one like it. We have the Island School here, which we'll get into more later when we go tour it. But they are building an underwater habitat for cobia. and it's on a beautiful dive site. It's right on a wall with great coral formations, and it's going to be this huge cage with thousands of cobia, and of course the cobia attract the sharks and pelagics and big groupers. And here again, with the visibility we have today and the high sun, the framework is there, the cage isn't there. We're going to have it later in the year stocked, but it's a dive that rocks.
You know, most people that know me for my work in the water. I love being in the water. I love working with sharks. I love working with big animals, and I love seeing what's going on under the water. Most people don't have that opportunity to spend exorbitant amounts of time in the water. Well, I do.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
18 miles to the southeast of here is an area called the Bridge.
Keep going straight, go straight, go straight.
It's a hump that connects the two massive bodies of water in between Eleuthera and Little San Sal.
A little bit more, a little bit more.
Well, it goes from thousands of feet on both sides right up to about 60 on the top. And while we were there, you would just see wads and wads and wads of birds. And they were diving on bait, just going crazy. And there were kingfish skying and tunas busting. So I said to the guys, I was like, hey man, let me grab my underwater video camera and jump in. Sure enough, I got the nod, grabbed my gear and I jumped in. I had to swim about 100 yards. And as I got close, it was just magnificent. Literally, I had birds like landing on my head, and you could see their feet and you could see their heads poking down, grabbing the bait. And there were these little blue, neon silver blue bait. They looked like a juvenile sardine. And they were just all balled up, and they would go this way, and they would go this way, and they'd change colors. One time they'd look blue, the next time they'd look silver. The mackerel and the tunas and the bonitas and everything was just coming up, pia, 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 crap, just going nuts and jumping out of the water, and the birds are diving on my head. You just get lost. You're like, man, this is incredible. It's so invigorating. It just brings the life out in me whenever you can get into an area of life like that. That's what I live for. And so I'll never forget my first opportunity to free dive and dive on the bridge in between Eleuthera and Little San Sal. Beautiful.
Well, I tell you, he got more nerve than anyone I've seen for a long time. You see him swimming out there with the sharks, with the tunas, and etc. And no knows what can come around, but he is just a brave old soldier.
Absolutely, 100% bona fide, undeniable, out of control.